he's finally lost it. You know what I love? Video game jingles. And I'm not talking about video game soundtracks, that's a completely different thing. While a jingle may sometimes be a part of a game soundtrack, they don't really work as songs on their own. Usually being a few seconds long at best, and certainly not reaching a minute in most cases. They're just kind of a little tune, but they add so much to the gaming experience in the way that they're used by video game developers. Now sure, when you think of video game jingles, you've probably got something like da-na-na-na, or going on in your head, and sure, those are video game jingles, but Nintendo created those iconic tunes over 30 years ago. They're literally from some of their very first games ever. And video games haven't stopped these little jingles after all of these years, because they're just so good at adding just that little extra bit to a game's sound design. And yet, there's a chance in recent years you haven't even noticed them going on in the background. Or you did, I already know you, but still. I've compiled over 100 odd different tunes, mostly constructed by Nintendo, and planted them into different categories so that I could gush to you about them because they're just a criminally underrated aspect of video games. Sound good to you? Great. So, where to begin? Well, how's about starting right at the start, with the very first category that I like to call starters. They're pretty self-explanatory. They're the bit at the start that jingles you into motion. It's Bowser's message from Super Mario 64, giving you this little inkling of evil as you read what Bowser has to say, like a customized little text tone. It's Hey Pikmin's calm descent into this casual experience of this beautiful world unveiling before you. Or sometimes it even comes with a little extra characterization, like with how Mario and Luigi react to the start of every battle with a Or how's about keeping it minimal with Yoshi's Island's simple drum use? No need to overcomplicate things. How's about another single instrument that's a tad less conventional, but all the more iconic? Pikmin makes another gentle rendition with Pikmin 2's return to surface theme, feeling like a sigh of relief as you finally exit the dangerous undergrounds and get to begin anew on the safer surface of the planet. And these jingles don't even necessarily have to be at the start of a level. In Super Mario Sunshine, just the start of choosing a level to start gets its own little tune, somehow still feeling like you're on holiday at the beaches. I don't even know how they portrayed that feeling. For something more modern, get into the fresh vibes of Splatoon 1 and 2, who both start their online matches with an on-theme motivational booster to really help you get into the mood of Splatoon. Okay, here's one last one from Pikmin. What can I say? There's a lot of jingles for this category. With the Enter Cave theme, doing the exact opposite of what it did before, giving a sense of slight unease as you and your squad leap into the deep, dark unknowns. Or shoot, forget all of these one-off tunes, how's about an ever-prevalent one that's been following gamers for 27 years? We all know Mario Kart, and, well, don't forget that despite all this time getting to know the series, every single race we've ever been a part of has always been accompanied by some arrangement of... Once again, most likely an iconic sound that many people may not have really thought about before. It just works so seamlessly with the gameplay. Moving up on the list, because this is a low-key little mini top 10, I guess, we've got Chauncey's Door from Luigi's Mansion. See, there's not really much of a start for Luigi's Mansion. Once you get in, you just kind of go for like 4 hours. But there is that one moment in Area 1 where you get the key to the baby's room, and it's gifted to us with this wonderful micro cutscene, perfect for preparing us for visiting a dead baby. God, I love that atmosphere. Or flipping things over to the other brother, you've got that wonderful Super Mario Sunshine theme of Enter Delfino Plaza. Sounds like such a nice wake-up call. I wouldn't recommend it for an actual alarm clock. I genuinely did that for a little bit of time, but the way it peaks the audio for being too loud made it much less of a welcoming wake-up and more like a horrifying, heart attack-inducing start to every day. Regardless, our final mention for the starters category, and by far the best opener fanfare there is, at least in my opinion, has to go to the many variations of the appearance of Samus Aran. The way they carry so much power and heroism behind such a little motif does wonders to truly build up the importance of Samus and thus the player controlling her. What a great way to start. So let's say you're on your way, making your way through some whatever game you're playing. The novelty of the new has now worn off. Where can another fanfare make its way into your brewing mind? Easy! Through the simple collection of items. They appear in practically every game in some form, and you better believe they come with their own micro songs too. Well, sometimes. Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon's one is just a harp scaling up, but you get the idea. Remember any 3D Mario or Zelda games ever? You've got Power Moons, your treasure troves, the classic da-na-na-na, Power Stars, Shine Sprites, Heart Containers, or fancy power-ups in some cases. They're all pretty standard and have come to form the Nintendo formula at this point, but it makes sense because it all somewhat stems from a dead video game genre, the Collectathon. Remember Banjo and Kazooie? Now that game was filled to the brim with all sorts of little item jingles, and each one different to each item you collect. Some just a simple instrument bit, some with an extra yah from Banjo. Whatever they were, you can bet that they were just all part of the experience when it came to those Collectathon games. But for me personally, and I've got to repeat myself again, the best item fanfare? For one, it's gotta be Metroid coverage again with more of that awesome heroic power tone. And for two, it's gotta be the original Luigi's Mansion as well. That funky key theme of Luigi head nodding to the camera is just beautiful. But games aren't just about starting them and collecting items. Sure, some of them are, but most have more substance, puzzles of course being the go-to for such sustenance. And while completing a puzzle on its own is probably satisfying enough, it always feels just a little bit better in a game because of course it's gonna get its own puzzle completion fanfare on top of it. Obviously the go-to one is Zelda's recognizable... Yeah, but there's more to it than just that. Super Mario World has all sorts of secret pathways hidden in their levels, and even though they don't overtly play something for when you first discover or enter them, the closest thing you do get as an extra on the side is this upon using one of the hidden keys. What a rush of dopamine that gives you. Just don't replicate it in public. It's fun and all, it's just a memory you'll never forget when you're trying to go to sleep. Hey, we haven't heard from Pigment in a while. They've attempted a similar little puzzle completion tone, but it's actually more of a practical sound design choice. They don't play when you finally worked out how to access some fruit hidden behind a scale puzzle or anything. Instead, they simply play when you completed certain tasks. No brain power needed. This could be breaking gates, building bridges, or opening holes. The point isn't to reward you for beating up that bad obstacle. Instead, it's to tell players that it's actually done. The game encourages multitasking and you can't keep your eyes on everything at once, but you can keep your ears open for audio cues to tell you when you can progress through a certain avenue. Tactical. Surprisingly, there's not actually too many other puzzle completion tones to pull from here. So our final game to talk about once again is Luigi's Mansion. When you successfully eliminate all ghosts in a room, it lights up and delights us with... like a relieving smile on your face. Though that's not technically puzzle solving, and Luigi's Mansion does have an official puzzle solution fanfare. It's this. Appearing a lot with each chest that appears in almost every room. But what I particularly like about this jingle is that it is a motif that is duplicated and manipulated to give an opposite jingle of when a puzzle has not been solved. Here it is in action. Outright telling you that there's something funky up in here, and giving you a hint that something needs to be done if you want to get out of here. And if you don't, it's death! Our next category. For every game, there's at least 50 deaths at least, and of course that's not just going to be left in silence either. And yes, let's start with the iconic one, it's Super Mario Bros., which has gotten somewhat a similar rendition across all of the decades with each sequel, and the next, and the next, and the next. Are we done? Great, let's move on to the slightly less generic, it's still Mario, but it's Super Mario Maker. Yeah, sure, it's pretty much got all the old death tunes we've just tried skimming over, and we'll only be getting more, but something I did find to be a nice surprise was the super rare occasional variations of the standard deaths. Not so much a fanfare, and more just a soundscape of sound effects that were quite the trip. Be it a particularly big fall, getting into a car, or having a horrible crash on the way down. For being just an Easter egg, it sure was a nice surprise. Now Splatoon. I wouldn't really count this as death and more of just a losing jingle, but I'll fit it in here anyway. When you lose an online match in Splatoon, you get this really cool bassy tune that's clearly supposed to be disappointing, but honestly to me it sounds better than the victory fanfare. That's why I'm always hearing it. Yeah. Or there's again the Mario Kart series, with all of its losing fanfares for if you just couldn't reach the top 3. Okay, now let's expand this category from just simple death tunes to full-on game overs. They do go hand in hand after all, so up next, Luigi's Mansion. Sorry I keep bringing it up, but it does have a unique approach to all of its fanfares. Generic is certainly not Luigi's middle name. With that atmosphere coming back once again to really get a haunting concern of what's gonna happen to Luigi in this haunted mansion now. Or how's about Donkey Kong Country, which has a really weird approach to its death sequences, almost making it sound like a comical piece of, oh, that's our Donkey Kong, missing that vine by half an inch and falling to his death. What a jokester. Lol. He's dead. And in a similar vein, Super Mario Sunshine also brings up a comical approach, but more at the expense of the player, as it has that annoying honk that really feels like it's patronizing the player on how terrible they are. And since we're talking about game overs too now, I gotta point out the nice addition they added to Mario's deaths in Mario 64, where they take the backing music and make it slow down and waver before bringing it back to normal as Mario regains his strength and uses another of his lives. It's a cool little twist to the basic formula. And how's about Pikmin, the bad ending, which, though pretty lengthy as a simple fanfare goes, works in tangent with a fairly short cutscene as Olimar fails to escape the planet and so his unconscious body is sucked into an onion to become the one and only Olimar. Right, but despite all of that, my actual favourite death jingle actually comes from Kirby. I don't exactly know why, but the bouncy melody of Kirby dying is something that I just find really enjoyable. So how's my advice going, Daz? The one about distracting yourself to not be so bored. So after all this playing, you started, you've puzzled, you've died and lost, and now it's time for the Enders category. Much like the starters, except completely not a starter. You know what to expect. Did someone say course clear theme? Cause we got a load of those! Super Mario Bros, Super Mario World, Super Mario 64, throw in a Bowser version, sure, why not? New Super Mario Bros Wii? Yeah, let's chuck in a castle version for good measure. Super Mario 3D World, that course is clear! Of course you can expect pretty much every platformer ever to have this kind of trope. Donkey Kong Country has a super upbeat, happy-go-lucky kind of theme to it. I don't know why these monkeys are so jolly, but they are. You could also slide into this category the final lap fanfares of the Mario Kart game. They at least make an indication to the end before pumping up the usual track to a faster version. And then you've got Pikmin. With a game that surrounds a day sequence, of course it's going to be an exiting end of day theme for each day. What's particularly nice about the Pikmin 2 version is that it will have different instrumentation depending on your level of success on that day. Though one of my personal favourite ending fanfares has got to be from Splatoon. Whenever you complete a mission, you get this punctual beat. It's wonderful and succinct. Delicious. But let's forget Enders, we've already reached the end of our little list for it anyway, mostly because our next category seemingly grazes quite nicely alongside it, because this next category is the victory jingle. Did somebody say course clear fanfares again? Pikmin's return once again, because there's a load of room for victories apparently. When unlocking a new area on the world map, there's a build-up fanfare that plays with anticipation before not actually having a climax at all, just instead incorporating the actual sounds of the game directly afterwards instead. We've also got the massive hurdle of defeating the giant bosses of the game, truly feeling like a giant weight you can get off your chest and onto the Pikmin's backs. There's also one boss in Pikmin 2 who will take that fanfare and run with it. Literally. Sure changes the definition of small victories. But moving on to what I feel are the best of the victory fanfares, our runner-up has once again snuck up on all of us as it goes to Kirby once again. The endlessly joyous bounciness combined with this little dance just makes it one of my more favourite victory sequences. But, despite my opinion and usually wanting to skim over it for being too iconic and recognisable for this underrated tune gushing, I've got to highlight Ocarina of Time's boss clear theme, because the power and intensity behind it makes it such a good fanfare, and I couldn't not put it at the top of this mini ranking list. And that concludes the vast majority of gushings I have to say about those mini little jingles sprinkled across all video games. But there are a couple more micro categories I want to mention that I really wish had more examples to expand it with. Up first, the ringtones. Games are a mark of modern technology, and with it, phones have become ever-present. And I find too much joy in the form some of these in-game ringtones choose to take. Be it Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door's email notification from Peach, which is an 8-bit rendition of the Rescued Egg theme from Super Mario World, or the Jewel Screen from Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon being a remixed version of the franchise's main theme. Or there's always that one ringtone that pops up in Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations. And that's all I can really recall for video game ringtones. It's a shame. They give me so much extra joy. But moving on is our final category that wraps up all of those mini fanfares that didn't really fit into some of those categories mentioned previously. The MOTIFS. You know the one, just non-specific little jingles. It's Super Mario Odyssey's little main theme jingle. It's the interlude bit to take players into the announcement of Callie and Mary. Or it's simply Mario and Luigi introducing you to the game and company with a wholehearted Nintendo. Or if it's just Luigi, then it's a much darker Nintendo. I love that atmosphere. Hold on, am I forgetting something? A secret 10th category that I had to separate in fear of super over-diluting all the rest of the categories with its over-the-top fanfare representation? Oh right, the Mario RPG category. My god, I don't even know what it is about the creators behind the Mario RPG games, but they have fanfares for every damn occasion. You want starters? We've got chapter intros, unique chapter intros to each specific chapter. We've got dramatic sequences, warning of the dangers of an ever-looming dragon and a castle. We've got the Into Battle tunes. Item collections? You're in for quite the ride, bud. When it comes to Mario RPGs, we've got star pieces and badges and partners and items and important items and crystal stars, cards, and pure hearts that go on an awful lot longer than the rest of the ones in this list. You like puzzles, whether you've got it right or you've got it wrong, Mario RPGs have got you covered. You got a secret that is to be revealed, not a problem. They got so much resources for puzzle solving that they've even got some left in storage and never officially used them in any capacity. This is an unused track that they had. Everyone loves death. Mario RPGs are just the same. We've got deaths and game overs and more deaths and more game overs, and even when we win, we can lose sometimes. And as you say, we've got that covered. Do you want the usual bout of chapter completion themes? And don't forget those victories. Every single battle has a win at the end of it. Probably. Not to mention all the leveling up from the RPG format of the game. Ringtones, they appear in several different forms. And as for motifs, actually there's nothing more to that one. But still, Mario RPG games sure love their jingles, and I was only really jumping between two of them. Because there are a billion more jingles and fanfares from all sorts of corners of the great video game library. There's plenty of other games that didn't get a mention in this video that I'm sure have their own host of tunes to talk about. I just realized I didn't even touch Pokemon, but there's also 2D Zeldas, any more Kirby games, and if we break off the Nintendo barrier, we'll find almost an endless array of choices. And this video alone already digested like 120 plus jingles. Needless to say, they are a monumental element to video game enjoyment, and though everyone knows the basics, I just wanted to use the opportunity to gush about the many forms and uses such tiny jingles are used to add a little bit more to each individual gaming experience. For just a few seconds at most, these tiny additions can add so much more that many gamers may not have even realized. Or you did. As I said, I still don't really know you.
Daz, since when did someone know your phone number?
Something doesn't feel right here. Oh, it was just a text. These jingles are really misleading. It says, "Come help me, Plux. I'm trapped at..." These are coordinates.
Well, who could it be from?
Thank you for watching. This was a bit of a weird video and I might need to lay off the energy drinks next time, but it was fun. So what more can I say? Probably not too much more because I think this video busted my voice in one fell swoop. Oh well. Subscribe if you want to see more Nintendo-y content of mine, or if you really liked it, then become a patron to get access to videos early, as well as bloopers, bonus content, and more. Find me as Daz Videos on Patreon, Twitter, or Twitch, with YouTube uploads every Friday and streams every Saturday. As for now, I'm gonna put down my drink, and then I'm gonna rest my throat, because my name's been Daz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit. Oh god, I'm gonna get ill again, aren't I?